Welcome back to the deep dive. So today I want you to think for a moment. Not about, the usual traffic rules, but about liability. It's about those dozens of tiny micro decisions you make behind the wheel every single day. And maybe none is more critical or, well, more easily overlooked than vehicle positioning.
Exactly. It's a huge shift in mindset.
Mm.
Most drivers are instinctively worried about all the things moving around them. They just don't recognize that the real risk often comes with the choice they made about where to place their car, whether it's stopped or moving.
Right. So we've done a deep dive into the source material on risky vehicle positioning.
Hmm.
And our mission here is to really deliver the insights that shift your perspective from just, how do I avoid a ticket, to something
Right.
more important.
To actively minimizing your legal and your physical vulnerability. We want you to stop thinking like a motorist for a second and start thinking like a risk assessor.
That's a great way to put it. So the core question we're really tackling is this. What are the specific positioning mistakes that the data shows lead to preventable crashes? And what does the law, specifically this legal idea of a duty of care, say about the choices we make when we stop or park?
Right. And I think the best place to start is with those stationary moments, the times where convenience ends up costing a whole lot more than safety.
Let's get into it. The liability zones. We've all done it, right? We pull over just for a second and take a call or let someone out. But the data points to these no-go zones where even a momentary stop turns your car into an active hazard. What are they?
Well, the number one hazard in all static positioning comes down to one thing: obstructing visibility and traffic flow. And this isn't just about getting a fine. It's about creating a hazard the law recognizes.
So give us an example.
Okay, parking on a curve or just over the crest of a hill. Think about it. A driver coming up on that spot at speed is relying on sight lines that are measured in hundreds of feet. If your car's suddenly just there, right at the apex, you've slashed their decision window
To almost nothing.
to almost nothing. At 60 miles an hour, they have less than 2 seconds to react. That basically guarantees a high-impact collision.
And what about in cities? I'm thinking about intersections and that classic mistake of blocking the box.
Oh, that's a perfect example of, frankly, selfishness causing a systemic risk. You enter an intersection, maybe you had a green light, but then traffic ahead stops. Now you're stuck.
Yeah.
You haven't just created gridlock. You've made your car a target for side impacts, and you've forced other drivers to make these aggressive moves just to get around you.
The ripple effect.
Exactly. The question you have to ask is simple. Can I clear this intersection completely? If the answer is no, you just have to wait.
It's also interesting how these simple obstructions affect the most vulnerable people on the road: pedestrians, cyclists.
So it's a massive liability failure. Blocking a crosswalk or a bike lane, you are literally forcing a person, maybe someone with a stroller or in a wheelchair, out of their protected zone.
Right into live traffic.
Straight into live traffic. The liability exposure if something happens there is just huge because you intentionally violated their right of way.
I think the one that always surprises people because it feels like a safe haven is the highway shoulder.
It's a terrifying misconception. The shoulder's only for real emergencies, a breakdown. Stopping there for any other reason is incredibly high risk.
Why, though? It seems so out of the way.
The research is clear on this. Vehicles on the shoulder get hit all the time because distracted drivers tend to drift to the right. They just assume the space is clear. And the physics are brutal. You have a stationary object being hit by a car going, say, 70 miles per hour. The results are catastrophic.
Wow. So even if you have to pull over, it's not just about legality, it's about kinetic risks.
Precisely. And just to round out the static risks,
Yeah.
in cities you have to think about construction zones and double parking. Double parking doesn't just block a lane, it creates this massive blind spot.
So another car has to swerve around you, and they can't see what's coming.
They can't see anything. If a child or a cyclist darts out from behind your double-parked car, you bear a huge portion of the blame because you knowingly created that blind hazard.
Okay, so that covers the big static risks. Let's shift gears now to the dangers we create when we're actually moving. What are the active driving mistakes that put us in a dangerous position?
I'd say the first, and maybe the deadliest, is positioning yourself where you are simply invisible. I mean, staying in another driver's blind spot. If you just camp out there, you are gambling.
You're betting on them being a perfect driver.
A perfect, constantly aware driver, which no one is. If they decide to change lanes, they have absolutely no idea you exist. This is especially true with large trucks. You have to minimize the time you spend beside them.
And that leads right into the classic: following too closely, tailgating. Everyone knows it's wrong, but break down the why. What is the actual mechanism of risk with that 3-second rule?
Okay, so the risk mechanism is a combination of human reaction time and braking physics. A person takes about 1.5 to 2 seconds just for perception and reaction. That's seeing the brake lights, processing it, and moving your foot to the brake. The 3-second gap gives you that mandatory 2-second window, plus 1 extra second for your car to physically slow down.
So if you're closer than that,
If you're following at 1.5 seconds, you've left zero margin for error. You've given yourself no time for the brakes to actually do their job. You are guaranteeing a rear-end collision.
I read one analysis that called merging onto a highway too slowly traffic terrorism. It's a bit dramatic, but you feel it when you're stuck behind someone doing it.
It's a pretty accurate description of the chaos it creates. If you enter a highway going 40 when traffic is moving at 70, you force every single car behind you to slam on their brakes. It creates this dangerous ripple effect that can go back for miles.
Proper positioning, then, is about accelerating.
It is. It's using the full length of that on-ramp to match the speed of traffic. If you don't, you're shifting the entire burden of avoiding a crash onto everyone else.
And what about just, the sudden jerky moves, the unsignaled lane changes, or illegal U-turns?
Well, you're breaking the social contract of the road. You're invalidating every expectation other drivers have. When you make a sudden pivot without a signal, you force others into evasive maneuvers. And often, they end up hitting other cars trying to avoid you.
So you could cause a crash without even touching another vehicle.
And you would still be held primarily responsible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your failure to communicate and move predictably created the whole situation.
Let's dedicate some serious time to the giants on the road, the big commercial vehicles. Their positioning really dictates ours, doesn't it?
It has to. When you're near a truck or a bus, you have to respect the physics of their operation. And that starts with understanding the no zones.
These are the blind spots.
They're not just blind spots. They are massive black holes of visibility. They extend far back and wide around the cab. The rule is simple. If you can't see the driver's face in their side mirror, you are invisible to them.
You just don't exist.
You literally do not exist.
The wide turn is where so many people get into trouble, right?
Yes.
Trying to sneak by on the inside.
It's a critical and often fatal misjudgment. A big tractor trailer has to swing wide, often into the left lane, just to make a right turn. If you see that gap and try to squeeze between the truck and the curb, you are putting yourself directly in the path of the trailer.
You're going to crush you.
The data shows that's one of the leading causes of fatal crush accidents in city intersections. You have to yield that space, period.
And the simple reminder about stopping distance?
You have to multiply your normal following distance, at least. A fully loaded truck can weigh up to 80,000 pounds. It's just momentum and inertia. They need so much more room to stop than a regular car. If you cut in front of one and hit your brakes, they have zero chance of avoiding you.
So we've covered bad choices in positioning. Now let's talk about the things that turn a small mistake into a total crisis. The multipliers. And let's start with the big one. Speed.
Speed is the single factor that turns simple negligence into something criminal. It doesn't just reduce your reaction time, it increases your stopping distance non-linearly.
What does that mean, non-linearly?
It means if you double your speed, say from 30 to 60 miles per hour, you don't double your stopping distance, you nearly quadruple it. That's because kinetic energy increases by the square of your velocity.
So poor positioning plus too much speed means you've basically mathematically guaranteed a crash if something happens up ahead.
You've eliminated your own ability to stop or maneuver. And on top of that, higher speeds create this phenomenon called speed tunnel vision. Your peripheral awareness just shrinks. You're less likely to see hazards on the side, more likely to drift out of your lane. Speeding forces you into other positioning failures, like tailgating.
It's fascinating how things like bad weather, poor visibility, combine with that speed to create a perfect storm.
It's a lethal combination. Poor visibility from rain or fog. It makes it impossible to accurately judge distance or speed. This leads to what we call unintentional placement. You just don't realize you're too close or that you've drifted over the line.
And then when you do realize...
You overcorrect, violently.
Yeah.
A sudden sharp jerk of the wheel when you realize you're on the center line is one of the fastest ways to lose control, especially on a slick road. And remember, in bad visibility, other drivers can't see your signals or brake lights until it's way too late.
Inattentional blindness. That means you're technically looking at something, but your brain just doesn't register it.
Precisely. You're looking right at the road, but because your brain power is tied up in a text or a conversation, it just filters out crucial information, like the brake lights ahead of you, or a lane closure sign. The result is delayed reaction time, inconsistent lane position, that classic weaving, and you end up tailgating without even realizing it. Distraction instantly puts your car in a position of high vulnerability
Yeah.
and high liability.
All right, we have spent a lot of time defining all these risks, which is vital, but now we need to talk solutions. What's the actionable advice if you're listening right now and you realize, I'm in a bad spot, I need to fix this?
The first, and I think most underrated piece of advice is stay calm and be predictable. Panic leads to sudden, violent moves which are dangerous in themselves. Once you realize you're too close or in a bad lane, signal your intentions. Use your turn signal well in advance. Communicate.
And the actual move itself, how should you do it?
Gradually, deliberately. Smooth out your steering, your braking. Check your mirrors and your blind spots multiple times. Avoid that sharp swerve. Just steer smoothly to a safer place, whether that's backing off the car in front or moving to a clearer lane.
Okay, now for the worst case scenario, the breakdown. You're suddenly stopped in a dangerous spot, a bridge, a blind curve. What do you do?
Hazard lights on immediately. That's step one, no matter what. If you are on a high-speed road, the research is very clear that it is almost always safer to stay inside the vehicle with your seatbelt on. The car itself offers you structural protection. Only if you can safely move the car should you try to get it as far off the road as possible.
But what if there's a fire or some other reason you have to get out?
Then you exit immediately, on the side, away from traffic. And you get completely off the roadway structure if you can. The legal exposure here is huge because your duty of care now extends to warning other drivers about the hazard that your vehicle has become.
Let's really hammer home the legal fallout, because this is where a simple mistake becomes a personal catastrophe. We've mentioned duty of care. How does poor positioning breach it?
Well, every driver has a legal duty to operate their vehicle in a way that avoids creating foreseeable risks for other people. Poor positioning, parking illegally, weaving from distraction, blocking an intersection, that is a clear breach of that duty. You've moved beyond a simple ticket and into the realm of negligence.
And financially, what does negligence mean for the driver?
It means you are now exposed to a civil lawsuit for all the damages. Property damage, medical bills, lost income, you name it. Your insurance might cover some of it, but your personal assets could absolutely be at risk if the claim is large enough.
And what's the line between that, simple negligence, and something criminal like reckless driving?
The line is the degree of carelessness. Negligence is failing to be a reasonable person. Reckless driving is a criminal offense. That's when your positioning is so dangerous, like speeding excessively while weaving through traffic, that it shows a willful or wanton disregard for safety. That can mean jail time. It means a criminal record. Positioning isn't just about physics, it's a direct reflection of your legal commitment to safety.
This deep dive really underlines that driving is just this constant, continuous risk assessment. The core takeaways are just so vital. Always maintain that 3-second gap minimum, respect the massive no zones around large vehicles, and just eliminate those multipliers, distraction, and excessive speed.
Exactly. We've seen that dangerous positioning fundamentally violates the legal duty of care you owe every other person on the road. The goal isn't just to avoid a ticket, it's to recognize that every single decision about where your car is tied to public safety and to your own personal liability.
So consider this final provocative thought. If your current position right now, today, or your failure to adequately mark a hazard, like a flat tire, makes an accident for another driver foreseeable, the law sees that as a failure of your duty. True defensive driving, therefore, means constantly assessing the legal and moral liability of your current placement, even when you're at a complete stop. So what is one specific habitual change you can commit to today to ensure you are meeting your fundamental legal duty of care on the road?
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.